Wait. All right. Hey, everybody. Hey, everyone. I'm Cody Townsend, and I am joined here with backcountry skiers Connor Ryan and Andrew Drummond. Thanks for joining us for episode 3 of the Protect Your Playground film series. And tonight's going to be a little bit different. First, we're going to show Connor's film, Paha Sapa, and then we'll do a few intro questions. Then we'll show my film, The 50 Project, episode 23. And then we'll do a few full Q&A with the three of us. So please write your questions in the chat, and we'll work to answer them once we've kind of watched both films. But before I begin, Connor and Andrew, let's get a chance to introduce yourself. So Andrew, why don't you kick it off?
Cody. My name's Andrew Drummond. I am a resident of Jackson, New Hampshire. I'm a backcountry skier, trail runner. I have a ski shop called Ski the Whites here now. Photographer and active outdoor enthusiast. I joined Protect Our Winners about a year ago.
All right, and Connor.
Mataka yape, chante washte nape chezupulo, Connor Ryan, amici yape, Iche wichasha hu papa lakota mielo. My name's Connor Ryan. I'm from the Hupapa Lakota tribe, and I'm a passionate backcountry skier who is based out of Boulder, Colorado, and I'm an ambassador for Natives Outdoors.
Awesome.
Oh, do we keep straight to this question?
Yeah. So there's a question I think you got from
awesome.
me.
Yeah, so my film's coming up first, and this is my first experience sharing both my love of skiing and my culture with the broader world. And so as someone who spent time, both on your own and with POW, using skiing to advocate for the places that you love, Cody, what advice can you give me on propelling this advocating for issues that I hold close to my heart?
I think personally it just all derives from passion and love, and I think it just starts to become natural. For me, the reason I joined Protect Our Winners was because of skiing, and the reason I'm here today is because I fell in love with skiing from a very young age, and it's brought me from the ski resort to the backcountry to some of the most wild places in the world. And from there, it's just all of a sudden you begin to cherish the outdoors, and you start to see these things that are worth protecting. So as long as you're kind of sharing that love and sharing that passion, I think it just comes out naturally. I don't think it's a forced thing. I don't think any of us are doing this because we want something out of it other than protecting the places we love. So that's what I think. I've seen that in you. I've seen that in Andrew. I see it in every single person that's involved with POW. And I think we're just doing this because we love the outdoors and we want to protect these places. But on that, I think we're going to get right away to your film. So Paha Sapa is what we're going to start with. So we're going to turn off our audio and video and get to your film, Connor. So let's kick it off.
How mataka yape, chante washte nape chezupulo, amici yape, Connor Ryan, mielo ikche wichasha hukpapa lakota. I love backcountry skiing because it connects me to the land through a deep relationship of peace, solitude, and exhilaration. We're setting off on an adventure to explore backcountry skiing potential across Lakota territory, from the plains of Nebraska to the Paha Sapa, the Black Hills of South Dakota. This is my first opportunity to ski in my ancestral homeland.
The Black Hills is our place of worship and ceremonies communicate to the Great Spirit, or Kankanka, the Great Spirit. The Black Hills is the heart of Mother Earth.
Does Nebraska have turns or cross-country skiing potential? We had to just go there and find out.
We get in the car and we drive east, away from the snow-capped peaks and into the plains, hunting for patches of snow in the shaded chutes of the bluffs.
We did find cross-country skiing in Nebraska National Forest, but for turns, it was a week too late. The base had melted out. But it's nothing that a new dump of snow couldn't fix.
Blizzard conditions could still develop into the afternoon hours.
It was humbling to find the lines that could be skied in Nebraska. They were steep, and the terrain and snowpack was uniquely demanding. They inspired awe in a way that I had never experienced while skiing. I've never stood atop a line and looked out onto countless miles of prairie. It was intensified by knowing that I was standing in ski boots, looking at a line where my own ancestors could have stood in moccasins, looking for their own path across this landscape.
As part of the history that we've inherited in this country is basically policies to remove indigenous peoples, cultures, and languages from the landscapes that they came from. And I think in many ways I can say, for Native people in other places, reconnecting with land and knowing a landscape is a form of resistance. Because not knowing the landscape and not knowing the cultural traditions tied to it, it's the policies to assimilate us. Those are continuing to work if we continue down that path. So I think there's a power in being able to know how a land operates.
At Natives Outdoors, we seek to reconnect ourselves as athletes and the communities we come from through outdoor adventure and sport.
Yo, it takes a nation of millions to hold us back. This is treaty land. We see these scams. Hey, yo, we know the facts. Evil collapses and cowers in fear.
Black Elk Peak is the highest point in the Pahasapa, the sacred Black Hills. It is a mountain which has hosted traditional ceremonies such as Hanblecha and the welcoming of the thunders for countless generations. For the last century, this holy mountain has been called Harney Peak, the name of a U.S. Army general who massacred 86 Lakota women and children. This name was changed in recent years in an effort by a descendant of General Harney alongside Lakota people to heal the history and the future of this sacred place. With reverence and respect in our mind and hearts, we descend into the rest of the Black Hills, a place which now brings us Lakota both hurt and healing. In this time, a better way forward begins with protecting the land and water from dangerous development, leaving its pristine beauty to be appreciated, not just by Native peoples, but also by those who recreate, climbing, biking, hiking, and even skiing in this unique mountain range.
In the winter of 1982, a local man named Pat Krengle opened Bald Mountain Sports near the base of Terry Peak in the town of Trojan, and he started selling telemark gear. And that opened the door for backcountry skiing on a larger scale in the Black Hills.
You know, lots of telly stuff, you know. Of course, there was no snowboards. And, you know, or carry your skis on your back, which is more what we did as kids, butte skiing and whatnot. And, you know, as the technology evolved, you know, the possibilities evolved just like everywhere else, you know.
This area in the Northern Hills, there's a growing group of backcountry skiers that don't even go to the ski hill. They just go out to some canyons and areas. Everyone seems to have their own private little honey holes they like to keep secret.
There's only a handful of spots in what we call the snow belt here of the Black Hills that consistently has snow.
There's a lot of opportunity for skiing in that, in the Upper Spearfish Canyon. In the Black Hills, it's weather contingent. We don't have a consistent snowpack like Western Wyoming would have. We can kind of count on skiing here maybe 3 out of 5 years.
To finally reach an area that offered the kind of terrain that skiers dream of, and find everything blanketed in a few feet of fresh spring snow, it was a moment of deep gratitude. We were exactly where we needed to be, at exactly the right time. It felt like, in this moment, Tunkashila, Grandfather Sky, and Ushimaka, Grandmother Earth, were coming together to make this all possible. We got to have an experience that brought us all together, and it's my hope that adventures like these can become a bond between groups like skiers and native people. For us to have an experience here that is really sacred, but also really enjoyable and powerful, and something that other skiers would be able to look at and understand the magic and the beauty of this place.
All right. Welcome back. We'll get Connor and Andrew back up here, and I'm going to start by asking Connor some questions about his film. Connor, so Paasapa, this was your project, your first project and first experience skiing in your ancestral homeland. Like, what made you decide to make this film, and what was the process of getting something like this off the ground as kind of the first native-centered ski film?
It wasn't entirely my project. As you can see, it was presented by Treasured Heights in cooperation with Natives Outdoors, and I was really lucky to be able to work with Mike Whalen of Treasured Heights, and he, was one of the first people to reach out to me as a skier to realize, like, telling the story of the land has to be something that involves Indigenous people, because I wouldn't have had the resources on my own to make a ski film, especially at that time. I didn't, have the friends and the connections and the things to make that all possible that I'm starting to gain now. So, that's part of why we don't see as many native skiers in ski films, is because it takes a lot of resources to ski. That's one of the, bridges that we seek to kind of bridge and get across right now in this time is like all the skiing that happens on this continent happens on land that once belonged to indigenous people and native tribes. And at the same time, we don't have the same ability to recreate in the places that we love and have known for so long. So it does take that door being opened in a way by people who do have the capabilities and the resources to make that happen. And as for how it felt to ski there for the first time, it was like kind of this feeling of like nostalgia, even though it had never happened before, if that makes sense. The moment that really set in for me was when I drop into that cliff that kind of opens up the skiing segment there. You can hear me yelling "Hoka," and that's Lakota for essentially like it's a battle cry. It means like "Let's go," and to be able to yell that and hear it echo through the valley in the place where that word was first spoken, there was just something that just lit up inside me in a special way that was like, like my people have been there in so many different capacities for so long, and I felt embraced by that environment and by the spirit of that place to get to be there in my own unique way, because that's how I experience land as a skier, is to ski it, to be in the POW. And I just felt right at home in that moment, like this was the return of something really good and special and powerful. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's hopefully you don't have to cry Hoka to go into actual battle, but you get to go for sending clips, which I like. And then this is something else, and you started your film with the land acknowledgement, and we're seeing a lot of that starting to happen and becoming aware about these days, and some debate about it. But for those in our audience who aren't aware of this practice, you talked about, and can you talk about the history and significance of this? I mean, you mentioned Black Elk Peak was once called Harney Peak after a U.S. general who killed Sioux families. And what does this returned land acknowledgement mean to you? How does it promote the work of actually protecting lands? And you mentioned that the land and water in the Black Hills are under threat and in need of protection. So what is the kind of action we all can do to protect them?
So the land acknowledgement is essentially, when you're out recreating, to make an effort to understand who the original inhabitants of the land that you're on were. And I really think that this serves two purposes. I think the maybe most common concept and idea around it is that a land acknowledgement is for indigenous people. But the reality is, like, we know our places, we know our land, like we know when we're on it and where we are within it. So it's good for us to be acknowledged and be brought to the table in the conversation in that way. But I think one of the most important parts of it is it's also for other people that, are guests of this land and now want to cooperate in stewarding this land, is that like you need some buy-in too, and when it comes to the like changing the name of a mountain, don't you want to be a part of a legacy that means something? In the case of this mountain, like the only legacy that man had whose name was on that mountain before Black Elk was one of violence. And I don't think that's something that most people that I know who are out recreating are trying to celebrate. And so the idea of changing it to those original names is so that you have a better part of a story to, participate in, and so that you have a foot to start on to research, and get involved with how you can learn more about the practices and learn more about how to contribute to the indigenous people in the places that you're enjoying. And I think that's, we've seen through things like Bears Ears that like we have a lot of the same goals, recreation people and indigenous people, and we are stronger together, but we have to each know a little bit about each other to understand how to work together. And so I think the land acknowledgement is the doorway to deeper understanding of one another. And in the case of the Black Hills right now, as far as what it takes to protect them, I don't know how many of you are familiar with that recent ruling that happened in Oklahoma, where they determined like a large portion of Oklahoma is actually by law land that belongs to the native tribes that are there and the indigenous people there. Well, the same thing happened in the Black Hills in the 1980s. The Supreme Court ruled in 1980 that the Black Hills still belong to the Lakota people. By Article 6 of the U.S. Constitution states that treaties are the supreme law of the land. And so because of that, the treaty that was made at Fort Laramie in 1868 guarantees the Black Hills to belong to the Lakota people as long as the rivers run and the grasses grow. And it's not the rivers or the grasses who've forgotten, their end of that treaty. And so instead, the U.S. government offered us $2 billion in exchange for the Black Hills. And we said, no, we don't want $2 billion, we want the Black Hills. And so that's why there were the recent protests there in front of Mount Rushmore. And so what can be done now is to learn a little bit about the land back movement, work to honor the U.S. Constitution, because I think that's an important thing. That's what gives us all our, our right to vote, our basic rights that we value so much in this country, come from the Constitution, and that needs to be honored for Indigenous people as well. And then another thing that can be done directly right now is there's a number of people who are being held unlawfully on, different charges for that protest. And they can't really be charged for trespassing and the things that they're being charged with on their own land that belongs to them. So I'd encourage people to look into things like there's a hashtag you can check out on Instagram called Free Nick Tilson. Nick Tilson is the Lakota man who led that protest, and they're trying to charge him with 5 felonies and lock him away for up to 15 years because of protesting to protect his own land. So I'd encourage people to check out NDN Collective. I'll throw that up in the chat so that people can look them up. But let's make sure that these people don't go to jail for protecting, their own land, and continue to research and look into ways to return the stewardship of the lands to the people, because we don't want to kick everybody out. We don't want to kick all the skiers out of the Black Hills or the mountain climbers or any of that. It's just that if recreation happens in a place like that, shouldn't we be the ones who are, in charge of, getting to have the tourism industry there and things like that? So, I think that's part of the plan moving forward, is to, see those lands come back to us that are legally belong to us.
If you in the audience want a little background too, I'll suggest, if you're into podcasts on the recent Oklahoma Supreme Court ruling, listen to This Land. And it's like an 8-part series, and it'll give you a lot of background to kind of what Connor's talking about. Some pretty interesting stuff, and it'll give you background to the Lakota tribe and the Black Hills and what he was just speaking about. So otherwise, that was really good stuff, really powerful stuff. And we're going to segue into our next film. I'd say less powerful and is important, but has its own take on community and kind of skiing in general. So we're going to start it off with episode 23 of the 50 Project, and Mount Washington, Tuckerman's Ravine, and Huntington Ravine, otherwise known as Agiochuk. So let's get that started right now.
We're gonna look at Central. It's riding like a freaking golf course up there, guy. Chip it right off the top, give it the beans, get in the front of the boots, and point them downhill.
We're rolling the dice. We're throwing all our cards in right now. There's just not much going on the West Coast right now, so we're heading out east. And I booked plane tickets a few hours ago, and we're getting on a flight early in the morning. I'm flying to Boston, New Hampshire, or not Boston, Massachusetts, and then driving up to New Hampshire to hopefully get a window for Tuckerman's Ravine and Huntington Ravine on Mount Washington.
Looks like you're ready for the East Coast.
we are going to meet up with some local Mount Washington badasses. I have a buddy that grew up back east, moved out west to Jackson, and then moved back east. And I've been starting to follow him, seeing him kind of getting after Mount Washington a ton, and then he's got this crew. And it just kind of like, as I'm researching Mount Washington, realizing like there's a lot of pretty hardcore badass skiers here. And shit. Yeah, I always do this, even with the maps thing.
Maybe we should put a sign on the car saying that we are from the West Coast so people get it.
And there we go. Worked.
Doing great.
Thanks. How's it going? You Andrew?
That's Bjarne with the camera.
We film everything. Good.
I was wondering, I saw someone up there.
Yeah, totally. So we're gonna probably go up tomorrow, up on, try and do Huntington and Tux, just bag them both in the day. Looks fun though.
Yeah.
Looks really fun.
It's amazing.
Yeah, like I think it's a little bit different than out west in that like it's -12 and windy out right now, and it's gonna be cold as hell tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm always curious, so why stay out east versus move west?
I think like the big thing is like back here, it feels like there's work to be done. My whole thing here is documenting and filming and shooting photography on the White Mountains and really sharing why they're so special. It's world-class skiing here. Like you're here.
Yeah.
I mean, like the pro skiers come here every winter, and it's because we have like not only great skiing, but we also have the culture and the history of backcountry skiing. It all started here in the United States. It all started in Tuckerman Ravine. That's an easy answer.
I like it. Yeah, it's more than just skiing. So scheduled kind of a day between our flight and getting ready to ski the mountain, which is always nice. So there it is, I think.
Is it cold or?
Yeah, it is cold. I mean, I've got the locals texting me and telling me it's cold, and East Coast skiers are pretty renowned for being hardcore when it comes to weather and cold, all that. So when those guys are saying it's cold, I think our little soft West Coast bones are gonna freeze and break into a million little pieces if they're saying it's cold. With wind chill, it's currently -30. I'm scared. So, not often you skin up in the hotel room. So amid all this talk about cold and early mornings, kind of forgot to mention what we're actually doing here back east, which is 2 classics, hopefully, both on Mount Washington, which is the highest mountain in the East Coast. Stands at 6,200 feet. And those classics are Huntington Ravine and the legendary Tuckerman's Ravine. To get up to Huntington Ravine from the parking lot to the top of the line is about 3,400 vertical feet. It's got about 3 miles to get there, so pretty direct, not too long. On the way back down, there's a multitude of lines. We can ski any of them, but we're looking at anywhere between 40 to 60 degrees. After that, Tuckerman's, we might go up Huntington's, down, back up Huntington, and then traverse over to Tux, and then back down. And they're both about the same, similar vert. We're just gonna kind of play it by ear on what we do today, what our approach is. It's gonna be weather depending, so.
Morning.
Morning.
How are you?
Good. How's it going?
Hey, pretty good.
Just here in New Hampshire.
Morning. How's it going?
Living the dream.
Nice.
It's cold out here this morning. It'll be a good day.
Good. How are you this morning?
Oh, pretty good.
Beautiful out, huh?
So far, so good.
Yeah.
Morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. How are you, Briggs?
Oh, pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Freaking ready to go up here?
Nice and chilly.
Nice and freaking chilly. Yeah, this ain't California with a Baywatch and a pound of snow. It's freaking cold out here.
Yeah, Frizz, this is breakfast.
Yeah.
Right? It's been a minute.
is a cold start. Feels a lot better to be actually getting the blood flowing. It's nice to be walking. Feeling great, high energy, good crew. Big crew, so we're gonna have to navigate, divide up most likely, but yeah. Awesome to be out here. It is spectacularly beautiful.
Look at Central, it's riding like a freaking golf course up there, guy. Ship her right off the top, give it the beans, get in the front of the boots, and point them downhill. St. Los Angeles with your freaking fancy purple one pieces or whatever.
Making our way up to the base of the lines. We got one crew going up this line over here called South. We got one crew going up this line, and up behind there, this one called Diagonal. So, kind of splitting up the groups. How beautiful is this place? Get through on skis. I think when we come back down here, like, stay on that rock, hug high. It feels a little, but yeah. We are at the top of our line, Diagonal. Transitioned over, and we're gonna go ski it. That's, I think, the basics of it all.
What do you think about this view, dude?
That's sick, dude. This is rad, man. It's so cool to be here right now with this frothing local crew. We got good snow, it's cold as hell. It's the East Coast. East Coast? Yeah, Forrest. Whoa. But yeah, now we're grouped back up at the bottom. Those guys did Central, we did Diagonal. We're gonna go back up Central and then get up onto this, like, kind of the summit plateau slash a little bit higher to the summit. We'll see about going up to the top or not, but traverse over to Tuckerman's. So checked off Huntington Ravine, that classic, and now we'll go do the other one. How does this rank in terms of like a ski day here?
11 out of 10, I'd say.
Yeah. This is 11 out of 10?
Yeah.
Okay. Ski over, ski something down in Tux, and then maybe potential bonus lap up to Spur. Sounds like an epic plan.
Oh, here's some good stuff. Alright. Tuckerman's Ravine. The legendary. Have a good run, guys. Oh, look at this. That is a sick zone. Hey guys, conditions report. It's firm and fast, but definitely grippable. Hi, buddy. That was fun. Nice work, dude. Yeah, he's over the finish line. Woo! Yeah, that's usually 2 in a day. That's our first twofer.
I like the East Coast.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
It's on the record. It's on the record.
Hey, thank you, man.
That's it.
That was awesome. Yeah, Bjarne.
Nice job, Bjarne. It's nice to see you work, man.
Awesome, team. Yeah, man.
Woo.
Day 2 for Frizz.
I had no expectations other than 90% chance we'd be skiing terrible conditions because that's what I expect on the East Coast.
Reasonable.
And we didn't have that. I think we were in that 10%. It was really good. What always trips me out is like all the guys that live out west and wear ski to east shirts. I'm like, yeah, but you moved out west for skiing.
Yeah.
But I can see now, like I see the pride here. I see like the community here. I see how like down home, and there's something more than just skiing here.
Yeah.
And it's more than just making a turn, and it's really cool. I appreciate that.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
Well.
2 million people living at the base of it.
Well, I did pretty big approaches. We need to come back. It's like
the east side too is like the best corn cycle I've ever seen anywhere. All right. Well, back everybody. Yeah, my adventure to the East Coast, which is different for me. I'm very Californian and don't get out very often. So with that, we had Andrew showed up in the episode, wasn't able to ski with us. Unfortunately, you were busy running your last man standing event, ski touring event. So I have some questions for you. So actually, both of you you're both relatively new to the POW Athlete Alliance. So can you kind of tell us about
what brought you to POW and what you're currently working on. And why don't we start with you, Andrew?
Yeah, thanks. I mean, yeah, that was a tough weekend. There was a lot going on with the event, and I know that, you know, having you in town, it's like, I'll get into it later, a privilege having pros come by, but you were in good hands, and it was awesome when you swung by my event to let me know that you guys had some success out there, and really cool to hear. But yeah, my background with Protect Our Winners, I joined, like I said, a little over a year ago, and thanks to a little nudge from Lindsay Burgoyne, a Maine native who's the lead policy maker over there, or the policy lead, I guess her role is. But it was the perfect time. I was looking for a way to make a difference somehow in the community and politics and anything. I'd been living in California for 10 years, and I moved back here and in the Mount Washington Valley, and it's like I wanted to start locally and figure out how to make a change, just because if I'm going to set up roots here, I really want to put the outdoors first versus all the outlet shopping and development. But Protect Our Winners sort of hijacked that, and I went out to an athlete talk at UNH, and then eventually I went to the POW summit out at Moab, and it was just like this aha moment getting to hear everyone talk. And you know, it's POW's job, you know, as an organization, is to round up all the experts and do all the research and groundwork that we don't have time to do. And they lay down this path that makes it easy for someone like me with no background in politics or anything. I mean, I did the lobby camp this summer, and that was all new to me as well, but they were enablers to let us use our voice, leverage our platforms, our businesses, our followings to all have this common bond, which is we are the outdoor state. And so while climate's certainly a huge issue, there's also this protecting these areas of wilderness. And that really, you know, for me is that's definitely one of the main points also of like, not only is it like my livelihood to go and ski and recreate and these beautiful outdoor places, but also it's it's like we want to I want this livelihood, but I also want to recreate and protect these areas we love. So anyway, Protect Our Winners was a way for me to get involved, and I appreciate how that they provide the tools and education to make a difference. And it's opportunities like tonight to hear Connor's story and what's going on in his neck of the woods. And we all have this bond, and it makes me care more about what's happening in the rest of the world, the rest of the United States, so that I can get involved and make a difference.
And what about you, Connor? Why did you join POW? Oh, your mic is off.
Yeah, okay. A lot of the same things, like clearly, you know, like taking care of the land is what I'm passionate about. For me, it's beyond activism. I don't take care of the land because I'm an activist. I take care of the land because I'm Lakota, and that's my duty culturally to do that. And POW to me was a resource of how to make that happen. Instead of having to do all the research, instead of having to connect all the dots, I'm like, what do I get people interested in? What's the most pertinent thing for people to be fired up about? You know, like, I wouldn't have a lot of luck registering a lot of people to vote on my own, but POW helps give me those tools. And so for me, that's really the thing that gets me excited. Is just having a network of, you know, other people that get to come around this together. And the more that we bring our own, you know, strengths to the table, the stronger that collective gets. And so I'm just stoked to be a part of that.
Nice. And Andrew, and we kind of talk about it a little bit in the film, but I wanted you to talk more about it. You talk about the rich history of backcountry skiing in the East, as well as your feeling that feels like there's work to be done in terms of sharing this experience. What have you been doing to kind of progress this? What's on the horizon? And like, how are you and the people in New Hampshire trying to preserve these areas for the generations to come? Oh. There we
go. In order to protect these areas that we recreate in, you know, well beyond the White Mountains, there's this threat of development coming in, infringing on these areas of wilderness. And we also have, the climate shortening our seasons, which is really evident here on the East Coast. And we have this gap in education where backcountry safety and ethics isn't necessarily reaching all the visitors. And so I take a lot of responsibility that me as a skier and as a shop owner is enabling a lot of people to access the backcountry. So it's like that needs to be balanced out. And as the increased demand grows, as we're going to probably see this winter, I need to do my part. And for me, that's I'm learning as I go, but I'm trying to be proactive with public outreach, partnering with the Avalanche Center to get weekly podcasts out when we're in avalanche season. I'm trying, I work with Granite Backcountry Alliance. I'm a board member. We're a nonprofit here in New Hampshire and Western Maine to kind of like widen the highway, as this bottleneck occurs and we start to see more cars at the local parking lots. We need to create more skiable terrain in our region. And that's been really successful. And that alone, that whole nonprofit has a great voice and outreach and visibility, and it's done a really good job. And then sharing, like you'll see, the places, these really beautiful areas like extend throughout the White Mountains and beyond. And you think of like some of the mountains in Maine, the Green Mountains, Adirondacks in New York, and Massachusetts. And it's like we, as a region in the Northeast, collectively all, ski for the same reason. And we all need to take responsibility for not only how we recreate, but how we preserve these areas.
Gotcha. Trying to figure out if you have a film coming out, and we might have the teaser for that called Beyond Tux, which is, most of everyone knows about Tux, but it's there's a lot more out in the Whites and out in New Hampshire and Western Maine and New York. I know yours is mainly focused on New Hampshire, so I'm trying to get confirmation if we're still showing that, and if we are, we can go play that. In the meantime, I'll kind of keep peppering you guys with some questions. And first off, what is the goal of getting others introduced to these spaces you hold so close? Why, we were just talking about this earlier privately, which is why more people out there when sometimes it seems like we don't want more people out there, or people will be like, oh, it's too crowded now. So why do we want more people out there?
Yeah, just quickly answer that question is that, you're giving up a little bit. You're giving up maybe some of this exclusivity or some of these quiet moments in the mountains. You maybe see one or two more people, and it's for the greater good. I think as a society, you have to let go sometimes and realize that if someone's coming up and putting the effort to come out and be active and outdoor and recreate outdoors, not only is it better just as a society if everyone's active and healthy, but it's they're going to cherish these spots more if they can actually set foot in them and participate. And then, from there it just builds. But it's it's a fine balance. It's delicate and it's a tough question to answer for sure. It's are we blowing up all these spots and creating hazards and ruining the whole experience? Does there have to be a level of permitting where you can only have so many people out there at once? And then but how do we solve the inclusivity problem too that we're seeing? How do we get more people up here and access that don't have the means to backcountry skiing being such a white sport? It's we have a lot of work to do, but it's discussions like this that start people thinking, as a shop owner, I'm working to get more kits for kids, to get people that don't have means to rent the kits, to just loan them, waive the fee. And if there's any way that I can introduce more people that don't have access, and then the trickle down effect will hopefully create more opportunities for others to enjoy. But I think we have a teaser here that been working on for a couple seasons. That's going to be a 2-season project, but again, it goes to showing you have to showcase some of these areas that don't get much exposure for people to realize that there's work to do to protect them.
Cool. Well, let's show it right now. So the teaser for Beyond Tux.
My name is Andrew Drummond. I grew up here in the Mount Washington Valley. Conway, New Hampshire is my hometown. The White Mountains are really special to me. The most attractive thing to me, in a weird way, is the weather. It doesn't matter how crazy the storms are, how windy it is, you can always get out. We're out there no matter what. You know, the mountains are always open.
Overall light wind. I'm ready to go when you are.
My goals this winter is to prioritize the areas of designated wilderness in the White Mountains. These are remote regions that take a pretty big effort to get into, but I want to set up a base camp and I want to explore. Sometimes you're going to get shut down, but other times you're going to get the best skiing of your life. I am the biggest cheerleader for the world-class terrain that we have. We've had world-class skiers here showcasing it. It's just been isolated topography. And there's so much more than that. I need to get this done. I can't leave the White Mountains until I get this done. I'm handcuffed until we do the White Mountains justice for the skiable terrain that they offer.
Righty, we're back. So looking forward to Beyond Talks. That looks pretty cool. Definitely seeing out there for my first time and just seeing the potential made me want to come back there because I saw some lines. I was like, ooh, that looks sweet. I want to come back there. But kind of wanted to get to some audience questions, some other things. First one question in regards to kind of Mount Washington in general. It's also originally known as Agiokochuk, and it still bears the name of U.S. and other mountains of named after U.S. generals who have committed atrocities against Native people. So, Connor, my question for you is, how can we best acknowledge the land and the history behind it? Like what beyond land acknowledgements that are maybe in a social media post that might be shallow, but is a step to, taking course of the history that's there. What else can we do to kind of acknowledge this past and also be able to protect it in the future?
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the important things is to remember when it comes to calling these mountains by their original names is like, these are places we have respect for, you know what I mean? And I don't know about you, but I've had the experience in my life of people mispronouncing my name or misspelling my name or like whatever that is. And there's an interesting energy to that, right? Like there's not the same respect, even if you answer to the mispronunciation of your name. And I think we should keep that in mind when we have reference for these places. And then the other thing is like, when it comes to naming a place, like there's not a particular reason always that the name of some particular general or historical figure is put on a mountain other than kind of just patriotism or colonialism. And in the case of the indigenous names of mountains, it often has a really special meaning to it. And I think for all of us who value the mountains, we should lean into that feeling of calling these places by a name that really like honors what they are. And I think in the case of Agiokochuk, they view it as the place where the Great Spirit is. And I think it's really cool to think about like, what if we go to the mountain each time with that intention of connecting with that spirit that makes all these ecosystems we love to play in alive? To me, that's a cooler energy than connecting with the idea of just like remembering a particular historical figure. It doesn't carry that same gravity. And I think it makes my recreation more fun to know I'm a part of this long, cool story. And I think that's a great way to do it.
Yeah, no, it makes a ton of sense, and you explain it so well of why it should go back to these, because I think the name, the original names, quite often represent what we in the outdoor state and the outdoors people kind of feel when we go out there. We're not feeling reverence for wars or any battles. It's more for we're connecting with a very, very special place. And so I really like that way you put that. And I'm going to start going to some of the audience questions now. One of the first questions, and this is something that was very topical because it was announced yesterday, it's something that Connor and I have discussed in the past, and I think about it. The question is, Connor, do you feel squaw is derogatory? Should female Indian Valley change their name? If not squaw, what? So if the people don't out there know, the resort Squaw Valley, which is actually my home mountain I grew up skiing, an iconic ski resort, of course, it just announced it was changing its name as of 2021. It is committed yesterday to changing its name. So on that question, Connor, what does it mean and why is it important to change it?
Yeah, I think this is one that is, kind of a complicated issue for people, because from the outside it can seem like squaw is just a word for female Indian. But I think, one, it's important to remember we don't have any particular name that we call a white woman. You know what I mean? And there's no white woman valley out there. So I think that's a part of it that has to be considered, is anytime that you're using a name that particularly applies to only one race of people, that inherently is going to carry some bias. And then in the case of this particular word, it's the bastardization of a word that comes from Algonquin language on the East Coast. And then that word was taken as colonizers moved west and was used and applied to indigenous women in order to value their life less and hypersexualize them. And what would happen is, in many cases, the men would have died in battle, or, there was smallpox and other epidemics that left our populations, kind of reeling from what had happened. And so using the word squaw meant, that these women were valued less for who they are. And I think it's important that we address that there's still the issue of missing and murdered indigenous women in our communities, and we're still struggling for justice and struggling against the human trafficking and sexual violence and violence against women in Native communities, and it's worse than in any other community in the United States. And it's not fair for us to, still have that slur used against us while we're so actively struggling to protect our women. So I think that's a really important part of it. And I think also, people say, don't change it because that's the history of the mountain. Well, the history of the mountain that I'm familiar with has a lot more to do with other names like McConkey, and the Olympics. And I think that's the history that people really value about that place, comes from the terrain, comes from the snowpack and the snowfall and those epic storms. And I think that's the part of this that needs to be valued and honored as we move forward. So I think it's a great move, and I'm looking forward to see, what they choose and how they choose to involve indigenous people in their moving forward.
Cool. We'll go for a question for Andrew that you kind of addressed, but maybe I can expand a little bit more on it. But someone asks, it would be nice to have a youth backcountry ski program with questionable resort season. Would be a great way to keep kids on the slopes and backcountry with limited lodge access. Do you have any plans for something like that? I mean, you mentioned kind of loaner ski equipment for kids that can't rent it. What other kind of things do you have in mind, or what you've seen going on in your community?
All the brands is that there's just not enough youth stuff coming into the market for that introduction. Right now, you're seeing a lot of kids that get pigeonholed, like if you were in Alpine, and then there's the people that go into Nordic, and then there's no in between. There's not much of this exploratory Nordic skiing or traditional AT backcountry split It's still very new and modern, and so it's taking a little while for it to catch up with the junior aspect. In fact, one of the manufacturers of these junior frame bindings, they didn't import, or they didn't produce anything this year. So that's like one product that would fit a junior's boot and enable kids to get involved. This year, it's August, and you can see I have a ski tuning bench, a ski mounting bench behind me, and it's covered in dust and drill bits, and I've been working the past few weeks mounting skis because the demand's going to be there. So you're going to see it. People are concerned that they're not going to be able to ski at the resorts. The youth programs for alpine, might look limited, might look differently. So it's a good opportunity to get the next generation involved, and you got to be creative about it. So I'm working with a few different brands to get, try to get the small boots that are tech binding compatible to get the next generation out there and kind of lead the charge, because what we've seen here, it's like, it's a passing of the torch. You share a little bit and then the next generation learns. And again, it's trying to make it inclusive. We have a local ski program here where I live that gets all the elementary schools out. It doesn't matter where you come from, what your background is. There's boots and skis waiting for you to go. So that's a great introduction to get people out. But yeah, we've seen a lot of people say in the chat room, there's this huge barrier of entry. It's money, it's gear, it's knowledge, it's everything. And we need to be better about, trying to be inclusive and figure out how to just, again, donate our time and drop some of this, some of our own ego to give more to, not just to your peers, but to the youth and those that are coming from different backgrounds.
Cool. We are, I think we're getting a little bit of weird feedback. I don't know if you guys are getting that, but we're going to kind of wrap this up. First, we're going to talk a little bit about what you guys can do. So with that, I want to ask you, Connor, a question. Can you talk a little about the work Cal is doing with an organization you're involved with, Native Outdoors, specifically the Make a Plan to Vote tool?
Yeah, for sure. So in Natives Outdoors, we're an Indigenous owned and operated ski media and apparel company, and so we're kind of about creating that lane for the outdoor industry and Native people to interface. And we have a lot of the same objectives when it comes to protecting the land and voting and all of that. But in particular on Navajo Nation and for some of the tribes in North Dakota and Utah and New Mexico and stuff like that, it can be really difficult for them to vote because addresses are difficult on the reservations and things like that. And even just the awareness around voting is not the same. Also, there's a language barrier on Navajo Nation in particular, where a lot of people just speak Dene. And so what's going on is we're partnering together to make sure that the Native groups who follow us and work with us are having the same access to the Make a Plan to Vote tools that everybody else in the outdoor state is getting. And so that's a really important thing, is that we're out there getting out the vote side by side. And so it's been a great thing to see, and it's really exciting, for our attitudes and our goals to align, not just in, when it comes time to make a movie and tell cool stories, but it's also aligning when it's time to put in that, necessary effort to make the changes to protect the places we love.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to be wrapping this up right now. I want to just say, in all these films where we kind of see just a theme of camaraderie and culture around skiing, and it's not just about the turns. It's about the people we meet and the conversations we have. And here at PAL, this is what we call the outdoor state. It's 50 million people who have shared interest of the outdoors. And the next things we're going to do is, how can we get this group of people to best protect the places they love from climate change? That's what we're trying to do at PAL and with the outdoor state. So with that, I wanted to thank you for joining us for tonight's episode of Protect Your Playground digital film series. Thank you, Connor, for this incredible insight. Thank you, Andrew, for all the work that you are doing. And I would ask all of you that have watched tonight to text NH to 65351 So that's again, text NH to 65351 to pledge to vote and make sure you protect the playground this November. So, last thing, we do have, if you stay on right now, we've got a very exclusive, not released yet, a teaser for The Purple Mountains. This is a film that Pow and Jeremy Jones have been working on together. It should be coming out in the next month or so, but nothing's been publicly released yet. So you're going to get kind of first exclusive access to the teaser. So if you stay on, you get to watch that. Otherwise, join the next series event. Don't forget to text and to join POW and make a plan to vote this November. So thank you guys all so much. You have a good evening.
How you doing? Jeremy Jones here, professional snowboarder, father, business owner, and founder of Protect Our Winners. Wow! I have a really important project that I've been working on for over a year now, and I need your help getting it over the finish line. It's a film called Purple Mountains, and it's about my journey to understand why people, despite overwhelming evidence, still